Hi, folks. Andrew here, Top Fitness Strategies. I am the face who runs the place. We got another great interview coming up for you today. But before we get started, if you're here for the first time, thanks a lot. Top Fitness Strategies is all about the fitness over 50. Look better, feel better, gain some confidence. Okay. And as always, my podcast, videos, all that good stuff, we always have a sponsor, and usually the sponsor is stuff that I produce. And so this week, the sponsor is going to be Health and Fitness 101, Simple Answers to Complex Questions. This is a composite of a bunch of things that I have done. I write a local column for a local newspaper, and I answer questions that people send to me. And it's a real simplistic kind of way. This is something you cannot find online because it's a hardcover. The paperback, it was a paper newspaper still. It has not transitioned online. So I've taken the best of and put them all on there for you. So that's our sponsor. Health and Fitness 101, simple answers to complex questions. Enough of that. On to the main event here. Today, my guest, and I'll go ahead and bring him on right now. Hold on a second. There we go. My guest is Leo Tonkin. Leo has created an entire industry for providing a safe, drug-free, evidence-based modality that is hacking into our respiratory systems to enhance performance and recovery while improving quality of life. Leo is considered a thought leader and a futurist. He is a published author, a highly sought-after keynote speaker, and a lecturer. He has been the pioneering force behind the salt therapy industry and is a recent cancer survivor. He's passionate about the difference salt therapy makes in people's lives. He recently launched a video podcast, Distinctly Well, inquiring into the what, how, and why for living and being well in all facets of life. And now, if you want to add to that, Leo, you can say you're a guest on Top Fitness Strategies, and Top Fitness Strategies Presents. Thanks for being here.
No, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
If the folks who follow me, Leo, know that I usually butcher the things that I read. So
That's okay.
Right now for that. So.
Yeah, well, that's okay. That could be the only script because I just like getting into the dialogue of things.
Well, that's it. And honestly, it is going to be the only script because this is a subject that I know very little, if any, and if nothing about it, if I'm even phrasing that right. Salt therapy. So before we get into all that, Leo, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us who you are, where you come from, and then we'll get into all the questions and answers and dialogue and everything.
Sure. Well, I live down here in South Florida. Our showroom's here in Boca Raton. So when you look at the over 50 crowd, they're all down here, as you know, and I'm one of them. And, for 30 some odd years, I've been a leadership and culture strategist. First got involved working with Stephen Covey in the 7 Habits back in the early 90s. I've been doing a lot of, consulting work and developing entrepreneurial startups as well as Fortune 100 companies. And about 12 years ago, somebody I knew was introducing me to a device that produces dry salt particles in a room or in a booth. And it was called halotherapy. And I never heard about it. And so as an inquisitive mind and a curious person who does believe in wellness and things that we could be doing naturally as well, I was curious. And so my consulting firm dived deep into doing a little research. And while there's a lot of research on this as a modality in Europe and a lot of facilities, in fact, some countries actually recognize this as a covered health expense. Here in the United States, there was only 10 facilities. And so they came back and basically said, it's wide open, blue ocean. So we started Salt Chamber. And basically what we do is we have been designing and building wellness concepts, salt rooms that, over the last 12 years, we've done about 3,500 projects. And, this is now becoming very popular in senior living facilities, in wellness facilities, med spas, day spas. You have some of the top luxury resort and destination spas. So it's more of an experience when you're in a room, you're breathing in dry salt particles. I'll go into the benefits shortly, but that really is what the essence is that there's this modality of inhaling dry salt particles and getting it on your skin. and having great wellness benefit in relieving all types of respiratory and skin conditions, as well as being a preventative and proactive way of taking care of your lungs.
Okay. All right. So right away, some of the things that I've been preaching for the longest time is cut back on sugar, cut back on your salt intake. I say all the time, if you salt your food before you taste it, you're eating too much salt. I know salt therapy isn't salt consumption, but I want to make sure that I'm understanding this.
Yeah.
So you're saying that salt, and this is my simplistic way of thinking of it, if you introduce salt to the human body from the outside in versus me saying the inside out, you should cut back on. But you're saying the outside in is better, is good for you.
Well,
Is it making sense how I'm
you know,
saying that?
digestion and inhalation are very distinct.
Okay.
And
Okay.
how the body absorbs salt. In fact, there's some that would say you need to be hydrating with salt water every day when you first wake up,
Okay.
or drinking certain concentrations of electrolytes with sodium and magnesium and other natural things. Especially as we get older, we stop producing as much phlegm and mucus in our system, and our immunity starts to wane. But this is dry salt that you inhale. And listen, people that, your listeners know that salt is very therapeutic. As a kid, I was first told to gargle with salt water. People sitting, my Nana was in salt baths. It was a preservative before refrigeration because nothing grows on salt. Salt is antibacterial. So when you start to look at saline solutions that people use, right? Salt is a lot of therapeutic qualities. When those of us that might have high blood pressure or hypertension, because we're supposed to be on low sodium, that's more diet restriction.
Okay.
And that's where, to your point, you may want to be reducing your salt intake based on certain parameters that are more specific to an individual. But inhaling dry salt particles, first of all, the device is called a halo generator, and halo is the Greek word for salt. And so this device takes pure sodium chloride. It's not your Morton table salt that you eat. It's not the Himalayan salt that you eat. So it's not that. And it generates a very submicron particle of salt. And I was going to say, if you take a piece of your hair, but I know maybe we should take a piece of my hair.
Hey.
If I take a piece of my hair, most people's hair is about 50 microns in diameter. So less than 1 micron is small. You can't even see it unless you hold up a light. So basically you're in this environment where you're inhaling the dry salt, and dry is very distinct from wet or moist salt. People love being by the ocean. Here, I live near there. People are outside. People talk about the difference it makes them feel, and they can just breathe it in and feel it. Well, if you have a piece of eggplant and you put salt on it, you see it pulls out the moisture. Why do we tenderize high protein with salt? Because it loosens up. Salt is anti-inflammatory. So as we get older, our lung function, our lung volume starts to wane. That's why as we get older, getting COPD, getting other restrictions is very important. The quality of our life and longevity of our life is really dependent on how well we can breathe. Can we walk up the stairs? Can we hold our grandkids? Can we play around the golf? We don't pay attention to respiratory until we have a condition. And this treats it. So if you are somebody that has asthma or, restricted airways like COPD, you're typically taking steroid inhalers and other mechanisms to open up your airways. Well, salt is natural. And what it does is it is anti-inflammatory. So it opens up your bronchioles and increases your oxygen and lung volume. And that's great for the cardiovascular system. That's why athletes are doing this. When they can increase lung volume and you're doing breath work and you're doing the appropriate ways, it's pretty amazing. And for some people that have sleep apnea, we built Tony Robbins' salt room in his home. He did it because, you get inflammation here, and that's when you start to snore, and you have to wear an oxygen machine at times. But if you reduce the inflammation, this reduces And it's pretty amazing of the results that are there. There is a lot of science. The Salt Therapy Association.org has over 139 pages of some of the published medical studies on how this has been utilized and how you have pulmonologists and respiratory therapists recommending this, as well as, opening up salt rooms. So it is an educational process, and that's part of it.
See, you just opened up a whole bunch of threads here, and I wrote a couple of them down as we're going here. So one of the things that you just mentioned, and it's just funny because I had this exact conversation with somebody yesterday about the sleep machines. I think they call it sleep apnea machines or something like that. And I said, 15, 20 years ago, I've never heard of anybody. Now it seems like all my friends have this thing.
Yeah.
I don't understand how and why. Now you started, you mentioned something about if the salt therapy is introduced, and once again, this is my terminology here. So if I'm totally messing it up, just slap me upside the forehead and say, no, that's not what I said. So if this salt therapy is introduced, could be a way to eliminate or at least cut back on this sleep machine. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, we're not telling people to do that, but
Right.
people, thousands and thousands of people are getting salted daily around our country and a lot more around the world. And the evidence and testimonials that people have is they sleep better. They get more heart rate variability. It gets more solid because you're increasing your lung volume and you're keeping healthier. We have pre-asthmatic children who moms really, quiver about giving them a steroid inhaler and introducing steroids. Our healthcare system, to your point, is we're always looking for finding out what's wrong and giving a quick fix solution. Right. So now we've got the weight loss and Ozempic and all these other things. And if you turn on the evening news, the national news at 6:30 or wherever you're at, right, and you look at the most expensive TV commercials that are hitting the nationwide audience, that are our group of age that's listening, you're being bombarded with asthma, COPD, eczema, psoriasis, because of the volume of medications that are being sold in that industry. But we're not out there and telling people, go sit in the salt room, or we have actually a consumer product that you can do it in your own shower or a pop-up salt booth to keep the salt contained. And that's what you're breathing in. But yeah, it does reduce people utilizing these devices. People that have been on oxygen tanks get reduction. People on steroid inhalers don't need them as frequent. We're doing it for racehorses. They have tremendous lungs. They are tremendous athletes. And we are in the World Equestrian Center in Ocala. We're in the top medical facility in Lexington, Kentucky for Hagyard. And these are athletes. They have a lot of snot. It cleans them out. We have NFL players, NBA players. We have people that, like you and me, that might have some conditions. And respiratory and our skin are our two biggest organs that we need to be taken care of.
Okay. Now you mentioned the high caliber athletes, which yeah, I used to live close to where you are. I lived in Wellington. So I'm sure you know where that is. So yeah, Equestrian Central over there, folks.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Okay. So for the ones who didn't know. So for the common person, the average guy over 50 years old, the average guy or girl over 50 years old, let's say. Now you mentioned COPD and you mentioned asthma a few times. If a person does not have either one of those, how would a person know whether they need this? Now, I know the patent answers will say, well, everybody could benefit from this. When I'm not saying they shouldn't, but how would a person say, or why would a person say, okay, I don't have the asthma and the COPD. I'd listen to Leo, listen to Andrew, talk to Leo. This is something, I don't know if I should go for this or not. How would a person know whether they could benefit from this?
Yeah, great question. So two things. How do you know when you should change your oil in your car or when you should change your air filters in your home? Unless you have a mechanism that then your red light goes on is when you do it. Well, maybe you should be taking care of your car before the red light goes on, right? You have regularly scheduled maintenance to take care of your teeth with your dentist. People make sure that they go get their hair cut or their nails done, or they do a facial or other things, right?
Right.
Well, why do we have to wait till we're sick or wait for something? This can be preventative and proactive care. Because when you think about it, why is lung cancer, COPD, asthma, bronchitis, sinusitis, emphysema, and the list go on for respiratory? What is the source of the issue? Is everybody born with some of these conditions? There is some genetics. But when you look at the quality of the air we breathe, according to the World Health Organization, 90% of our planet lives in poor air quality. When you start looking at the fires in California, in Canada, in the US, when you start looking at the volcano and ash, carbon emissions, people don't realize how much dust from rubber of our tires and brakes that are getting into the air. It's in the invisible that we can't see. Indoor air pollution is just as worse, if not worse. And we're using chemicals to clean our homes that we inhale that are influencing us. You look at what happened with COVID, and people don't have the buildup of their immune system. So what do you do to take care of your lungs, your respiratory system? You brush your teeth and take care of your teeth. You do other things. This is like being a toothbrush for your lungs. It helps clean you out. You and I breathe 20,000 breaths a day. And if I gave you a glass of water that was dirty, would you drink it? Well, we're drinking air every day, and we don't realize it until we do have an issue. So being proactive in self-care, we know that it will help increase your longevity and quality of life. And it's something to be focused on, not wait till something goes wrong.
Interesting. I like that. I never thought of the analogy of how you change your oil, or you change and then you get your hair done, and that is fantastic. I love that. Okay, so going with this whole salt thing, or lack of a better term. Again, sorry for the terminology here. I used to live in Florida. Like I said, I lived in Wellington. Then I lived on the other side of the state, directly across from you on the Gulf side for the longest time. I heard a lot of folks, and usually the older folks, the 70, 80 plus year old folks, was telling me how much better they feel once they moved down there. They weren't native Floridians, so to speak. Because I always ask people, why did you move closer to the coast instead of inland? And 90% of the time when I ask those kind of questions to folks, they were telling me that there's something about the salt air, the salt water, that makes them feel better. And I'm going to assume it has a lot to do with the salt therapy you're talking about.
Well, I mean, the salt in the environment by being by the ocean is evaporated salt. It's a moist salt, so it doesn't have any of the absorption qualities. And just like going to your, if you ever had a breathing treatment or a nebulizer, those are moist salts, and there's benefit to that, being by the ocean. A lot of it has to do with vitamin D with the sun, being in South Florida. You look at the indigenous plants and the greenery, depending on where you come from. I was a kid. My dad was a physician, and I had to get allergy shots once a week. You're allergic to certain dander in certain environments. If you play golf and you travel around the country, there's different landscaping and different things. So it really depends. Just like, going out to Arizona and being in more of a drier salt, a drier humidity heat than being in Florida. Down here, it rains a lot in the summer, as you know, and there's a certain life cycle of the quality of our air. In Florida, because it's hotter, we don't have some of the same, pollution issues because we have coast on both sides. And so the wind and everything, but you go out to Denver or you go out to LA or other environments that are more closed in, Florida is a peninsula. So the air quality is affected by us being surrounded by the Gulf Stream and the airstream. So we live in a very different environment down here.
Interesting. For those who are just joining us, I'm talking with Leo Tonkin from saltchamberinc.com, and we're talking about salt therapy. All right. So we talked about salt therapy, and we talked a lot about being at home or people living at home. We talked about athletes, but I want to stick with the common folk, if you will, like myself, sitting at home. So, can this therapy be done in your home environment, or do you have to go? And you mentioned the term salt chamber several times, which we'll get into in a second. But can this stuff be done at home?
Absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
about a year ago, we developed the same quality halo generator that can be used at home or even when you travel. You basically need an enclosed environment. You don't want to like be, salting your bedroom and getting salt dust
Mm-hmm.
on, everywhere in your house. So being in an enclosed environment, we have converted some showers. Some people might have a sauna at home. Um, when I travel, I use the shower stall because it's got pretty much 4 walls. And as long as the ceiling is high, even though it may not be enclosed, you're
Mm-hmm.
fine to do it that way. We have a pop-up salt booth, similar to, being a small tent that you just sit in there, and a session's only 10 minutes. So people, we'll give your listeners a special code that they can use to get a little discount and show that in the show notes, because at salttherapyhome.com you can find out. But we've got
Okay.
people that are building, their own spas and home now, right? They're doing their own mini fitness equipment. The COVID really
Mhm.
impacted people taking on self-care at home.
Yep.
So for those that can afford doing a salt booth or doing a combination of a salt and sauna and infrared or red light, so you're starting to see a whole wellness modality becoming at home. We've been doing it at the commercial level, and we do it at the home residential level as well. And we're seeing a trend: apartment complexes, community developments, country clubs, senior living facilities. When you look at amenities, they're starting to add this to distinguish themselves and attract and retain residents by saying, "Hey, we've got this in our country club. We've got this in our amenity situation."
Mhm.
For those that are living in, Wellington, or as all the communities in South Florida and around the world. In our backyard already, we have them at St. Andrews and Addison Reserve and in Wellington and over on the West Coast. And it's just not in Florida. 3,500 facilities all around. And so people can go to a facility to first check it out, looking it up online, or going to the salttherapyassociation.org. You could get a directory or go into our website. You see our customers all over the world, actually. And so that's part of what you're seeing as a trend. But you absolutely bring it at home or travel with you. During COVID, my wife and I went down to Aruba, and it's about the size of this water bottle, basically the device that you pour pure grade salt in, and basically it disperses those micron particles. So you breathe it in, and that's how you do it.
That was the
Going
question: was how big is if you do it at home, how big is the device? But you just answered that.
yeah,
That's great. Okay.
yeah.
So if somebody chooses to do, for lack of a better term, home treatments, and I don't know if treatments is the correct word or not. How often would they go about doing this?
Yeah, well, you can't overdose from salt.
Okay.
Okay, you can't overdose. We have children and young adults who have cystic fibrosis that are doing it on a daily basis. We have people that are patients that have routines with their pulmonologist and others where they're doing maybe twice a week over a 3-week cycle, depending on certain breakouts or conditions. For regular maintenance here in our showroom, I'm doing it about twice a week. 6 years ago, I had cancer, and I had a tracheotomy in me. I had a
Mhm.
stage 4 tumor in the
Oh,
back
wow.
base of my tongue and throat, and it was radiation that killed it. But having a trach and breathing and eating differently, there's a lot of mucus. You actually is kind of, not to get too graphic here, but literally you had a pump machine that you had to suck out through the hole in my throat through the trach. Well, when I was doing my salt therapy treatments, it was naturally reducing the amount of the stuff that I had to clean out and kept my lungs and all of this clean, because salt is sterile. It doesn't, nothing grows on salt. That's why they preserve it. And it's been shown as a surface to kill SARS, MERS, COVID. Nothing grows on salt. So I have personal experience out of it.
That is fantastic. So I don't know how to phrase this properly, so forgive me if I for saying with your experience, your unfortunate experience with the cancer and everything else. Does the salt enhance or take away from the taste of food? Does the salt therapy?
No, it doesn't. I mean, we have a study going on with some long haulers of COVID right now, and it doesn't take away anything. If anything, this breathing in salt is great. Getting it on your skin, it's great for people that have eczema and psoriasis because it's anti-inflammatory. Typically, people have breakouts because of inflammation, and the particles are so small it penetrates the first layer of the epidermis. So you got both skin and lung health benefits to this. But like I said, there's people that are doing this on a regular basis, and there's those that have certain seasonalities. Down in Florida, you have hot or hotter, but in other environments, you go through change of seasons. The cold season. That there's allergy seasons in the spring. So get ahead of the ball, and get a foot ahead and be proactive with it. So. It's very simple to operate. The consumable is salt, costs pennies to do a session, and it's also a great business model. I mean, that's what's also got a lot of entrepreneurs. You have a lot of developers putting this in their amenities, as I mentioned. So,
oh wow,
we have communities that people hear about it and they go to their homeowners association and saying, "Hey, maybe we should put this in our facility."
Interesting.
So a lot of different things. There are developments here in South Florida where you got on the luxury side, people putting it in. You got our pop-up salt booth at home where you got single moms with kids that are going to school with, germs and coming home and being sniffly all the time. They do their homework in the pop-up salt booth. So you can get a sense of it at the website there at Salt Therapy Home. But, like I said, there's probably facilities depending on where people are living.
Okay. Now you just mentioned Salt Therapy Home. Now, if you're watching on the screen right now, I have saltchamberinc.com. I'm going to assume all these other places that you've mentioned, you can link or they can go from salt chamber.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Linked in the show notes, of course. So, Leo, tell everybody how they can find you in the best places and everything. Another question.
Well, I'm on LinkedIn under Leo Tonkin. You could always find me there. And you've got saltchamberinc.com in front of you, and you can just write to me there. And if you're interested at the home level or business level, I'd love to chat with you guys. And if there are some particular questions about conditions that you have, or will this, we often get, what about this? What about that? We'd be happy to answer the questions. It has been proven to be safe. Children can do it. I have 4 grandkids, starting at the youngest is now 1.5 years old. He was born a little bit with some respiratory issues. He was in the salt room with his mom. This is great for pets. For those of you who have little dogs or big dogs, as they get older, or certain, like pugs and other dogs that have respiratory conditions, or cats, we have veterinarians that are using it. And I know we have 2 dogs. I got a Maltese and I got a small poodle. We bring them into the salt room on a regular basis as well.
That's awesome. Leo, you must have a copy of my notes because my last question is going to be age and pets.
Yeah.
You must have a copy of my notes here. So now I look like I wasn't prepared. That was going to be my ringer for you and everything else. Now, also, you had mentioned this term a couple of times, halo therapy. Okay, so
that's the that's part of the that's part of the technical name. Halo is the Greek word for salt, and the piece of equipment is called a halo generator. And if you have halo therapy, then there must be a halo generator around. Without a halo generator, you're not. Now, a lot of people ask, I go to these really cool rooms where they have backlighted Himalayan brick walls, and they make these cave-like structures.
Mhm.
That's all decor. It's all part of the experience. You can be in some of these environments where they have sound and vibration chairs. We have med spas that are doing IV hydration while you're breathing in dry salt particles. So we help design really cool wellness experiences. There is salted yoga that's going on. So while you're in a yoga class for 30,
Mhm.
45 minutes, the salt particles are in the air and you're doing certain breath work. So this is great for the mind, body, and breath. And so it reduces stress when we're able to focus on breath work, which is something that we should all be focused on. We don't intentionally work on it. And unfortunately, as we get older, our breath starts to wane. So halotherapy, it has a halo generator, and there is a whole trade association that supports the research, innovation, and education around it.
Wow, fantastic, Leo. Now, I'm sure we can talk for hours on this, absolutely. But I only asked for a half hour of your time, so we're about up. So again, it's www.saltchamberinc.com. Leo Tonkin, 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 and go check him out. Fantastic stuff in the salt therapy. This is going to be and an explosion coming up soon. I can just feel it just from the
Yep.
way you're presenting everything and the benefits that you're saying it does and everything. I'm digging this quite a bit. So,
Cool.
Leo, any final words of wisdom you'd like to pass on to anybody?
Not just, all wellness is great. I think people need to do the research and homework. That's what we do. We're very committed to evidence-based treatments, not snake oil. And there's a lot of stuff happening in the space. So be happy to answer any questions and offer your listeners a discount. And hell, you can try it for 30 days, money back guarantee. So if it's something that you want to do, check it out.
Yeah, we'll have the link in the show notes. But so if you can you say that link right now? Do you have it?
Yeah, the salttherapyhome.com is where the device is. And those of you that are listening will see a discount code given, especially for the show that you could be utilizing towards any purchase if you're interested.
Fantastic. All right. Leo Tonkin, Tonkin, Leo Tonkin.
Yeah.
Thank you for being my guest. That's saltchamberinc.com. And this is Andrew, Top Fitness Strategies. I am the face who runs the place. I want to thank Leo again. Fantastic stuff. Folks, check out the show notes. Go to the links, go to the website, reach out to Leo, ask him questions. This is something that's going to be beneficial for everybody. So again, Leo, thank you for being my guest, and we'll end it here. And have fun in Florida.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Until next time, this is Andrew and Leo. Ciao.
Thank you.